Greetings from a very sacred and very wet hill in Ireland. And I just wanted to share what I've been experiencing while I've been on these hills here. I've been really able to begin tuning into, I'd say, pre-Bronze Age Neolithic ancestresses of this land, and a very primal and ancient source of feminine power that has been very much lost. So the specific lineage I've been tuning into is the Druid Priestess. So the Druid Priestess, she was essentially in relationship with Gaia. She was committed to communing with Gaia. So she would go into nature and she would read the news of Earth and the cosmos and bring it back to her tribe. She was very tuned into the bee. She tried to act like a bee in that she would forage for the nectar and the pollen from the light of the sun and come back and transform it into the mystic's honey or the sacred wisdom that could be utilized for the society. And this used to be a very important role because it was known that it was in the unity of nature and technology that really allowed a civilization to thrive and to survive. And I think right now we're reaching a crisis point where we've had the dominion of technology and industry over nature for so long that Gaia is really trying to reawaken and revive and allow us to remember some ancient indigenous modes of consciousness. And I believe that there might have been ancient and lost civilizations on this earth that had a consciousness that was much more advanced than ours right now. And that right now, during our collective awakening, we actually have this opportunity to tune in to this vast reservoir of primal humanity that's just within all of us. It's almost as though the last frontier is going to be delving deep within us, deep within our own DNA and our own feminine. And so a lot of these wisdom sources were truly persecuted and killed off the earth, beginning in the Roman times. So the last time a lot of this stuff would have been written down was in the Library of Alexandria, and it was burned. But even in the Roman times, that society still used augurs and oracles. So they still used people that went into nature, read the signs of nature, and came back and consulted with those in power. And when you go back into pre-Roman times, into the Celtic era, the pre-written word era, they followed a system of law called the Brehon law. And it was a very advanced and egalitarian system of law in ancient Europe, and it was all about living in right relationship with each other, with the land, and with divinity. And the land and divinity, or nature and divinity, were not really seen as separate as they are now. So the earth as mother was just as spiritual and profound as the God as father in the sky. And there's a lot of lost ancient wisdom there about the unity of nature and spirituality that I think is extremely important to revive right now. So the ancient Celts didn't really see the destiny of Earth as being separate from the destiny of humanity. They saw them as being intertwined. And they had a very beautiful rite called the kingship rite. So the local king, before he was deemed fit to rule, would enter into a ritual ceremonial marriage with the local sovereignty goddess. And she represented the land itself. She represented the abundance and fertility that the land provides. And it was only if he treated her right and treated her with the utmost respect that he was considered fit to rule. And there's a similar male initiation rite in ancient Aboriginal culture. His final initiation into manhood, the man would be buried inside the earth as mother. And it was only in his courage and his willingness to give up his idea of himself as separate from nature and separate from the womb of life that really enabled him to step forward in his true sacred masculinity that served and protected and defended the feminine and nature. And a lot of these ceremonies were presided over by high priestesses and female shamans. So there's a deep and ancient feminine force that I think is coming back online right now. I think Gaia is longing for her primal women to remember our true power. She's longing for us to go deep within us and to really revive these ancient traditions and these transformative ways of being. And an amazing way to do it is with the use of the drum. The drum is this incredibly powerful tool to awaken our kundalini, to open our third eye, and to allow us to really access this pool of collective unconsciousness that is very ancient and has a lot of deep gifts and wisdom. And I think I happen to be tuning into this Irish genetic lineage, but we all have gifts within our DNA that are not really being activated right now. And I think that we're at a cusp of evolution right now. We're at like a turning point of our consciousness where it seems like a crisis, but every crisis has the seeds of great healing and the genesis for great rebirth in it. And I think right now specifically is a very exciting time to be alive. And I think almost like the last frontier is going deep within us, going deep within source, going back to a very ancient primal humanity. And the sacred feminine is ultimately about survival. The sacred feminine force is a primal survival force. It's about surviving transformation. And I think the way forward is going to be in all of our individual courage and willingness to be open and receptive to the voices of the feminine, to the wisdom of the feminine, and to really remember that the feminine is very powerful. So I just wanted to share because it's been very empowering and exciting, and it's brought me a lot of hope. So greetings from this very wet and very rainy hill in Ireland.